The bell above the glass door chimed softly as I stepped into the bank. The air smelled of paper, polish, and faint perfume. I clutched my worn leather purse, the same one I'd carried since my teaching days. "Good afternoon," the young clerk greeted. Her name tag read Grace. She had kind eyes. "How can I help you today, ma'am?" "I just need to update my savings account," I said, sliding my ID across the counter. "It's under my name, Nora Wells." "Of course." She smiled, clicking her keyboard. "One moment." The soft tapping of keys filled the silence. I watched the screen reflection flicker in her glasses. Her cheerful hum faded. Her fingers slowed, then stopped. Her brows drew together. "Mrs. Wells." I tilted my head. "Yes." Her voice dropped lower. "Has anyone else used your account recently?" My stomach turned. "No." "Why?" She glanced around, leaned slightly forward. "I shouldn't say this, but someone came in 2 days ago. A man. He said he was your son." My heart skipped. "Pie's son?" She nodded. "He tried to close your account." I blinked, unsure I'd heard right. "Close my account?" She hesitated. "He said he had your permission. That you were—" She stopped herself. "He brought documents. But something felt off, so I asked him to come back with you. He didn't." The words landed like stones. I could barely breathe. "My son's name is Ethan." Did he say that name?" "Yes, Ethan Wells." I pressed my trembling hand against the counter. "Are you certain?" "I remember clearly," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I thought you knew." I tried to laugh, but it came out thin and broken. "No, Grace. I didn't know." She bit her lip. "Would you like to see the transaction request?" It wasn't processed. I stopped it before approval. I nodded weakly. "Please." She turned the monitor slightly toward me. On the screen, my name sat beside my signature, except it wasn't mine. I could tell. The loops in the letters were wrong, the ink too smooth. My signature had a small tremor, always had since my arthritis. This one was clean. Too perfect. I stared at it for a long time. "He forged it." Grace whispered. "I'm afraid so." I wanted to speak, but my throat closed. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Wells. Should I call security? File a report?" I shook my head. "No, not yet." My voice came out barely audible. "Could you print that form for me?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Of course." While she printed, I kept staring at that empty digital space where my trust used to live. My son. My only child. The boy I'd fed, clothed, taught, and loved, trying to erase me with a pen. Grace handed me the paper gently. "Please sign here to verify your identity." I took the pen. My hand trembled. "It's funny," I said quietly. "I used to sign his school forms with this same hand. Lunch slips, report cards, permission letters." Grace looked at me with pity. "People do terrible things for money. I see it every week." I didn't think my son would be one of them. I forced the words out one by one. "Do you have someone who can help you? Maybe a lawyer?" I shook my head. "No. Just me." She hesitated, then lowered her voice again. "If it helps, I can flag your account. He won't be able to touch it without you here." "That would help," I whispered. She clicked a few keys. "Done." For a moment I simply stood there holding the printed papers. My fingers left faint marks of sweat on the edges. "Mrs. Wells." "Yes, dear." "I probably shouldn't say this," she said softly, but when he came in he didn't seem desperate. He was calm, confident, almost proud. I closed my eyes. "That sounds like him." Grace hesitated. "I shouldn't ask, but why would he do this?" I looked at her, my lips trembling. "Maybe he thinks I won't need the money. Maybe he thinks old people don't matter once they stop giving." She looked down, uncomfortable. "You matter." I smiled faintly. "Thank you. You're kind." The silence stretched. The ticking clock on the wall sounded louder than usual. Finally, I whispered, "I'll keep this quiet for now. I need to think." "Of course," she said softly. "If you need anything, please come back to me. My shift's here every weekday." I nodded, gathering my purse. "Thank you, Grace. You've done more than you know." She gave a sad smile. "Take care of yourself, Mrs. Wells." "I will." I turned toward the exit. My reflection in the glass door startled me. I looked older than I remembered, not because of wrinkles but because of the weight behind my eyes. Outside, the sun was gentle, the streets noisy with afternoon traffic. I walked slowly toward the bus stop, papers clutched against my chest. In my head, memories blurred with noise. Ethan at age 5 holding my hand at the park shouting, "Watch me, Mom." Ethan at 16 slamming the door when I refused to buy him a new phone. Ethan at 30 smiling coldly when he said, "You should move in with me someday, Mom. It'll be easier." Now I understood what easier meant. When I reached the bench, I sat down and stared at the paper again. My forged signature stared back. A gust of wind fluttered it like it wanted to fly away. I pressed it against my lap. "Not yet," I whispered. "You'll stay with me. You're proof that love can be stolen but truth can't." The bus arrived, brakes screeching. I stood up slowly, clutching the paper like a secret. As I stepped onto the bus, the driver smiled. "Afternoon, ma'am." "Afternoon," I murmured. He didn't notice the tear sliding down my cheek. Neither did I, not at first. Only when I sat down by the window, the city passing in blurs of gray and gold, did I feel it. The kind of tear that doesn't fall from pain, but from something breaking quietly inside. When I got home, the house felt colder than usual. The curtains hung still and the clock ticked louder than it ever had. I set the bank papers on the table and stared at them like they were written in another language. I whispered to myself, "How did we get here, Ethan?" The walls didn't answer, but they remembered. Every corner of this house had a story with his laughter in it. I picked up the framed photo from the shelf. Ethan, 6 years old, missing his front tooth, holding the paper crown he made for Mother's Day. He'd written Queen Mom in crooked letters. I smiled, but my eyes stung. "Do you remember this, sweetheart?" I murmured. "You said I was your favorite person in the world." The phone rang suddenly, sharp and loud. My heart jumped. I answered with shaking hands. "Hello. Mom," Ethan's voice came through, casual, cold. "I heard you went to the bank." My throat tightened. "So you know already." He sighed. "Grace called Clara to verify some details. I told you not to get confused about finances. I was trying to simplify things." "Simplify?" I repeated. "By forging my signature?" He groaned softly. "Oh, come on, Mom. It wasn't like that. Clara just wanted to help you manage your money better." I tried to keep my voice steady. "By taking it?" He paused. "You don't need all that money sitting there. You live alone. You don't even drive anymore." "I live alone because you left," I said quietly. "That's not fair," he snapped. "I have my own family now." I closed my eyes. "And where does that leave me?" "Mom, don't start," he muttered. "Clara says you're being paranoid. Maybe you misheard what that clerk told you." I gripped the phone tighter. "She showed me the paper, Ethan. I saw your name." Silence. "Do you want to press charges?" he finally asked, his tone defensive. "I want you to tell me the truth," I said. "Did you try to close my account?" He didn't answer right away. Then in a low voice, "It's complicated." "Then make it simple," I whispered. He exhaled. "Fine. Clara said we could invest your savings in a joint property. Something useful instead of rotting in a bank. I signed your name because it would take forever to get you there. I felt my heart ache. You signed my name because you knew I'd say no." "Don't turn this into drama," he said sharply. "You should be thanking us. We're trying to secure your future." "My future was secure," I said softly. "Until today." He didn't reply. I could hear Clara's voice faintly in the background, whispering something. Then Ethan said, "Look, I'll come by tomorrow. We'll talk face to face." "Okay. Tomorrow," I repeated. "Fine." The line clicked. Silence again. I sat down slowly, my knees weak. The quiet after his voice felt heavier than noise. I stared at the old kitchen table, the same one where he used to do his homework while I marked my students' essays. "Mom, can you check my spelling?" he'd ask, his small voice eager. I used to sit beside him, smiling. "Of course, sweetheart." Because, BVC. He'd beam proudly, his pencil scratching fast. "Thanks, Mom. You're the smartest." Those words used to fill me like sunlight. Now all that warmth had turned into something sharp. I whispered to the empty chair, "When did you stop needing me, Ethan? When did love become paperwork?" The clock ticked louder, answering only with time. Later that evening I walked into his old room. It hadn't changed much. The faded posters, the dusty baseball trophy, the dent on the wall from the day he threw a ball too hard. I sat on his bed, pressing my hand against the worn quilt. I thought I was raising a kind man, I said quietly. Not someone who'd count my worth in dollars. My phone buzzed again. A message this time. Ethan, don't overthink things. Claire and I love you. We just want to help. I stared at it for a long time. The word love looked smaller than it used to. I typed back slowly, we'll talk tomorrow. Face to face. Then I set the phone down. The night air crept through the window. I pulled my cardigan tighter and looked around the dim room. Every object told a story. The broken lamp from his teenage tantrum, the framed award from his graduation, the photo of him hugging me under a raincoat. I remembered that day, his shoes soaked, his laughter bright. He'd said, "One day, Mom, I'll buy you a big house. You'll never have to worry again." And I'd believed him. Now I looked around at my small, quiet house, still standing, still mine, and realized that maybe it wasn't the size of the house that mattered. It was who walked through its doors. I whispered, I'd rather live in peace than in a mansion built on lies. My reflection in the window looked older than it had this morning. But there was something new in my eyes too, not just sadness but a flicker of resolve. I folded the forged bank paper and slipped it into my drawer beside my husband's photo. His eyes in the picture seemed to say, don't let them take everything. I touched the glass gently. I won't. The phone buzzed again, another message. Ethan, don't tell anyone about this. Clara's worried it'll look bad if people find out. I read it twice. Then I turned the phone off. In the silence I spoke softly to the photo. Maybe it's time someone else starts worrying. Outside the wind picked up, rattling the window frame. Inside I finally understood what Grace meant when she said people do terrible things for money. It wasn't just greed. It was forgetting who you are. And I promised myself, before I slept that night, that I'd remind my son exactly who I was. His mother. Not his property. Morning light slipped through the curtains when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Ethan and Clara standing there, dressed too neatly for an apology. Morning, Mom, Ethan said, his voice tight. Can we come in? I stepped aside. You already did the day you signed my name. Clara forced a smile. Let's not start with accusations. We just came to clear things up. I folded my arms. Then speak. Ethan set his phone on the table, avoiding my eyes. Look, this has been blown out of proportion. The account thing, it was a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? I asked. You forged my signature. He rubbed his forehead. Technically, Clara filled the form. I just approved it. Clara's tone turned sharp. Mrs. Wells, you keep that money untouched for years. We thought you'd appreciate help investing. You're retired. Inflation is eating your savings. I stared at her. And so you decided to eat them faster? Her smile faltered. That's unfair. What's unfair, I said quietly, is that my son stood beside you while you pretended to protect me. Ethan exhaled. Mom, you're being emotional again. You don't trust anyone. I trusted you, I whispered. That's what hurts. He looked away. Clara stepped closer. You have no idea how stressed Ethan is. He works 12-hour days, pays for everything. We're just trying to build stability for the baby we want. I blinked. A baby. Yes, she said quickly. And babies need security. We thought you'd be happy helping your future grandchild. I looked at Ethan. Did you agree with that? He shrugged. It made sense. Hello, Mom. What's the point of all that money sitting in the bank when family could use it? I felt my breath shake. Family uses words like ask, not take. Clara crossed her arms. Fine. Maybe we should have asked differently. But honestly, you make it hard. You get defensive whenever money comes up. Because money shows what people value, I said. And right now it's not me. Ethan's jaw tightened. You're twisting this. I'm seeing it, I replied. He pushed the chair back. You know what? I shouldn't have come. Clara's right. This was a waste of time. I stopped him. Wait. Tell me the truth. Whose idea was it? He hesitated. Clara's eyes darted toward him. It doesn't matter, she said quickly. It does, I insisted. Did you want to do it, Ethan? Or did she tell you to? He clenched his fists. Clara just suggested it. I agreed because I thought it was smart. Smart. I laughed softly. Stealing from your mother is smart? It's not stealing, he shouted. It's family planning. The room fell silent. The sound of his anger echoed against the walls. Clara touched his arm. Let's go. She's not ready to understand. I looked at her coldly. Understand what? That you see me as a bank account. He glared back. You're dramatic, Mrs. Wells. We were just trying to organize things before it's too late. Too late for what? For you to manage alone, she said slowly. I smiled bitterly. Don't worry, Clara. I've managed alone for 30 years. She didn't answer. Ethan opened the door muttering, This is exactly why I didn't tell you. I called after him, because you knew it was wrong. He stopped but didn't turn around. You never listen, Mom. You still think you know everything. I only know what love shouldn't feel like, I said. He slammed the door behind him. The house went silent again. I sat down, pressing my palms together to stop the trembling. My chest felt hollow yet heavy. I whispered to the empty room. He sounded just like her. I thought of Clara's tone, calculated, careful. She'd woven a web and my son had walked willingly into it. Still, part of me wondered, was it her greed, or his? I reached for my tea but it had gone cold. I poured it out, listening to the slow trickle. Then I whispered, maybe they both deserve to learn what cold feels like. My phone buzzed. A new message from Grace. Are you okay, Mrs. Wells? I've flagged the account completely. He can't touch a thing. I typed back, thank you, dear. You've done more than you know. Then another thought crept in. If Clara could forge documents, what else could she plan? I needed proof, not anger. I looked toward my late husband's photograph again. You always said, Nora, when the heart breaks, keep your head working. I nodded slowly. All right. My head it is. For the first time since yesterday, a strange calm settled over me, thin, steady, dangerous. They thought I was fragile. They were about to learn otherwise. I didn't sleep that night. The clock beside my bed blinked endlessly. 2:03, 3:17 for 40. Each minute stretched like a silent scream. By morning I had made up my mind. When the sun touched the curtains I called Grace. Sweetheart, it's Nora. I need a favor. Her voice was soft. Of course, Mrs. Reed. What do you need? I need to see the forms Ethan filled out when he tried to close my account, I whispered. Just copies. I won't tell anyone. There was a pause. Mrs. Reed, that's not allowed, she said gently. I know. But please, Grace. I'm not trying to cause trouble. I just need to understand why my son would do this. My voice cracked on the last word. I heard her sigh quietly. Come in after lunch. I'll see what I can do. When I arrived, the bank was quiet again, sunlight falling on the polished floor like melted gold. Grace's smile was nervous. She led me to her desk and placed a thin folder in front of me. He said you were too old to handle your finances, she said softly. He signed a form claiming he was your caretaker. I opened the folder. There it was, Ethan's handwriting. My son's signature, bold and careless. My chest tightened. He really did it, I whispered. My own son. Grace reached out, hesitating. Maybe he thought he was helping? I gave a weak laugh. Helping me? By stealing from me. Grace lowered her gaze. Sometimes people convince themselves they're doing the right thing, even when they're not. I folded the paper carefully and handed it back. Thank you, dear. That's all I needed. She looked worried. Are you going to report him? I shook my head. Not yet. First, I want to hear the truth from him. That evening, I made tea and sat by the phone. The house was too quiet. The only sound was the ticking clock and the faint whistle of wind through the window. I dialed Ethan's number. He answered on the third ring. Mom? You're calling late. Everything okay? His voice was casual, too casual. I went to the bank today, I said softly. Grace told me something interesting. There was silence on the line. Ethan. He exhaled sharply. Mom, you weren't supposed to find out yet. My hand trembled. Find out what? That you tried to take everything I have. It's not what you think, he said quickly. I was trying to protect you. Protect me. I repeated, my voice rising. From what? My own money. He sighed. You've been forgetting things. Bills. Dates. I thought, maybe it's time someone helped. I closed my eyes. So instead of helping, you lied. You forged my name. Mom, I didn't forge anything. You gave me permission. I never did. I snapped. Don't you dare twist my words. His tone hardened. I was just trying to make sure you're safe. You don't understand how much stress I'm under. And stealing from me was your solution? I wasn't stealing, he shouted. I was taking responsibility. There was a long pause. Only our breathing filled the silence. I finally said quietly, you used to hold my hand when we crossed the street, remember? You said you'd always protect me. When did that promise die, Ethan? He didn't answer. Mom, please, he muttered finally. Let's talk about this in person. I didn't mean for it to go this way. I hung up before I started crying. The next morning I drove to the small law office 2 blocks from the bakery. The sign on the door read Foster and Lane Legal Services. Inside, a woman in her 30s smiled politely. Do you have an appointment? No, I said. But I need to make sure my assets are protected. She led me to a small room where an older man with silver hair greeted me. Good morning. I'm Mr. Lane. What brings you here today? I folded my hands. My son tried to close my bank account. I want to make sure he can't touch anything else. Mr. Lane nodded slowly. Do you have proof? I do. I handed him a copy Grace had slipped into my bag when I left the bank. Her quiet rebellion had saved me. He studied it, his brow furrowing. This is serious. But we can set up legal protections. A new trust, perhaps. Do whatever you must, I said. Just keep my name on what's mine. He gave me a kind smile. I'll make sure of it. As I left the office, I felt something inside me shift. Not quite peace, but power. For the first time in years, I wasn't the helpless mother. I was a woman reclaiming her life. When I reached home, I stood by the window again, looking out at the fading light. The phone rang once more. Ethan's voice was trembling now. Mom, what are you doing? I'm protecting myself, I said softly. The way you should have. He tried to speak, but I interrupted. You taught me something, Ethan. Trust is a dangerous thing. Once broken, it doesn't heal, it hardens. He was silent. Good night, son, I whispered and hung up. I sat down slowly, my heart heavy but steady. The house was still again, but this time it didn't feel empty. It felt mine. I knew Ethan would come. The moment I hung up the phone last night, I could almost feel his anger traveling through the air. Fast, reckless, unstoppable. By morning, the clouds outside had turned heavy and gray. The house felt colder than usual. I made tea, sat by the table and waited. At exactly 10 o'clock, his car pulled into the driveway. I heard the slam of the door before I even saw his face. He burst into the kitchen without knocking. What the hell are you doing, Mom? I didn't flinch. Good morning to you too. He glared at me. Grace called me. You went behind my back, took legal action. Do you have any idea how that makes me look? Like a son who tried to steal from his mother, I said calmly. He froze. That's not fair. Fair. I repeated. You forged my signature, Ethan. You lied to the bank. Tell me what part of that is fair. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. You don't understand. I'm drowning, Mom. The business, the debts, it's all collapsing. I thought maybe if I could move some money just temporarily. Temporarily. My voice cracked. You were closing my account. That's not borrowing, Ethan. That's betrayal. He slammed his fist against the counter. I was trying to fix things before you found out how bad it was. By ruining me instead? He turned away, his shoulders heaving. For a moment I saw the little boy again, the one who used to hide behind me after breaking a vase. But then he spoke and the illusion shattered. You've always had everything, he muttered. The house, the savings, Dad's pension. I'm just trying to survive, and you sit here in your warm kitchen judging me. I worked for that warmth, I said quietly. Your father and I saved every penny so you'd never have to beg. Well, I'm begging now, he shouted, spinning to face me. I'm begging you to help me. Please, just give me something. I stared at him, my son, the same boy who once drew me cards that said I love you, Mom, in shaky handwriting. Now his hands were clenched, his eyes hollow. What happened to you, Ethan? I whispered. When did money become worth more than love? He didn't answer. I stood, walking slowly toward the window. Do you remember when you were 12 and you broke your bike? You came crying to me because you thought I'd be angry. He blinked, confused. What does that have to do with? I told you we'd fix it together, I continued. And we did. I didn't punish you. I taught you responsibility. I thought you learned. He laughed bitterly. The world doesn't run on lessons, Mom. It runs on money. And what will you have left when the money's gone? I asked. Who will you turn to when there's no one left to trust you? He looked at me, then really looked like he was seeing me for the first time in years. His voice softened. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just panicked. I swallowed hard. You didn't just hurt me, Ethan. You made me question everything I raised you to be. He stepped closer. Then let me fix it. Please. I'll pay it back, every cent. Just cancel whatever you did at the lawyer's office. I shook my head. I can't. Can't or won't. Both, I said simply. This isn't about punishment. It's about protection. He exhaled sharply, anger flashing again. You're unbelievable. After everything I've done for you. Done for me. I interrupted. You haven't called in months. You didn't even visit on my birthday. Don't pretend you've been a son to me. He froze. The silence between us was heavy. Finally I said, Ethan, I'm giving you one thing, time. Time to fix your life without stealing mine. He stared at me, his jaw tightening. So that's it? You're just cutting me off. I'm not cutting you off, I said softly. You did that yourself. He turned toward the door. You'll regret this, he muttered. I felt a tear slip down my cheek. Maybe. But at least my regret will be honest. He stopped for a moment, his back still to me. I didn't think you'd actually stand against me. I didn't think you'd ever force me to, I whispered. He didn't reply. The door slammed a second later, the echo shaking through the quiet house. I stood there for a long time, listening to the rain start outside. Then I picked up his empty teacup, the one I'd set for him earlier, foolishly hoping we'd talk like family again. The tea had gone cold. I poured it down the sink, watching the dark liquid swirl away. My heart hurt, but there was a strange peace underneath the ache. Maybe confrontation wasn't about shouting or winning. It was about finally seeing the truth even when it broke you. I looked out the window as Ethan's car disappeared down the road. You'll find your way someday, I whispered. But not through me. Then I closed the curtains, shut the lights, and sat in silence, the sound of rain covering the space where my son's voice used to be. The house felt too big after Ethan left. Every sound seemed louder. The creak of the floor, the sigh of the wind, the faint ticking of the kitchen clock. I thought silence would bring peace. Instead it brought memory. For 3 days he didn't call. Not a message, not even a word through the neighbors. I told myself it was better that way, that space would cool the anger between us. But the truth was I checked the phone every hour. On the 4th morning Grace called. Mrs. Reed. Her voice was hesitant. I heard what happened. I sighed. News travels fast, doesn't it? She paused. Are you all right? I'm fine, I lied. Just tired. I don't think Ethan meant harm, she said softly. He's lost maybe. I smiled bitterly. People do terrible things when they're lost. Grace hesitated again. He came by the bank today. To apologize. My heart skipped. To you. Yes. He said he wanted to make things right with you first. He looked different. Scared maybe. Did he say anything else? She shook her head. Just that he was sorry. I stared at the phone long after she hung up. My heart wanted to believe her, but my mind whispered caution. That afternoon I took a walk to clear my head. The autumn air was sharp, the leaves crunching beneath my shoes. Every corner of town held echoes of Ethan's childhood. His laughter at the park, his small hand tugging at mine near the bakery. I stopped at the old cafe where we used to share cocoa after his piano lessons. The same waitress, Maggie, was still there, her hair now streaked with silver. Nora, she said warmly. It's been ages. How's Ethan? I hesitated. He's figuring things out. She smiled sadly. Aren't we all? I nodded. Yes. Some more than others. When I got home, the mailbox held an envelope with Ethan's handwriting. My breath caught. I opened it slowly, afraid of what I might find. Inside was a short note. Mom, I don't expect forgiveness. But I'm sorry. Truly. I've made mistakes and I'm trying to fix them. I know I hurt you. Please believe I never stopped loving you. Ethan. A small folded check was tucked inside. $500. It wasn't much, but I knew it was all he had. I sat down, tears blurring the words. Oh, Ethan, I whispered. Why did it have to come to this? The phone rang again that evening. This time it wasn't Grace. It was Mr. Lane, my lawyer. Mrs. Reed, he said gently, I wanted to inform you that your financial protections are now fully secured. No one can access your assets without your consent. Thank you, I said softly. He paused. There's something else. I received a call from your son earlier today. My grip tightened on the phone. What did he want? He asked if it was possible to reverse your decision. I told him no. He seemed distraught. I closed my eyes. He'll learn, I murmured. I hope so, Mr. Lane said kindly. For both your sakes. After the call, I sat in the living room staring at the old family photo on the mantel. Ethan at 10 holding a paper kite, grinning with missing teeth. His father's arm rested proudly on his shoulder. I remembered the promise I'd made at his birth. I'll protect you no matter what. But no one tells you that sometimes protecting means letting go. The doorbell rang just before sunset. I opened it slowly. Ethan stood there, eyes red, hair messy, rain dripping from his jacket. Mom, he said, voice trembling. Please. Can we talk? I hesitated, then stepped aside. Come in. He stood in the doorway, unsure. I didn't know where else to go. I nodded. Sit. He sat at the same table where we'd fought days earlier. The air was heavy with unspoken words. I got your note, I said quietly. He swallowed hard. I meant every word. Why now, Ethan? I asked. Why only after losing everything? He looked down. Because I finally realized what everything means. I waited. I thought money could fix everything, he said softly. The business, my life, even our relationship. But it only broke more. And the account? I asked. His eyes filled. It was stupid. I thought if I could just take control, I'd fix it before you noticed. I didn't want you to see how much I'd failed. You didn't just fail, Ethan, I said. You lied. He nodded, tears sliding down his cheeks. I know. And I'll carry that shame forever. I wanted to stay angry. But looking at him, tired, small, broken, it was impossible. I can't undo what you did, I said quietly. But maybe, we can start from here. He looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. You mean that? I nodded. You're still my son. But you'll have to earn my trust back. I will, he whispered. I promise. We sat there for a long time saying nothing. Just two people trying to rebuild something fragile. When he finally left, the rain had stopped. I stood by the window watching him walk to his car. He turned once, gave a small wave and drove away. I whispered to the empty room, maybe that's enough for now. And for the first time in weeks I didn't feel broken. Just healing. Fully. The morning after Ethan's visit, the world felt softer somehow. The air was cool, sunlight streaming through the curtains like forgiveness trying to find its way in. For the first time in weeks I made breakfast, eggs, toast and tea for one. But the chair across from me stayed empty. After eating, I decided to clean the house. Something I do when my thoughts get heavy. I started with the living room, then the old chest by the window. It had been years since I'd opened it, filled with photographs, letters, and bits of the past I'd tried to forget. As I sifted through faded pictures, my fingers brushed against a white envelope tucked behind a frame. My heart stuttered. On the front, written in Ethan's handwriting, were the words, "For Mom, read this if I'm gone." My knees went weak. I sat down, the envelope trembling in my hands. I hesitated for a long moment before opening it. Inside were 3 pages folded neatly. The first line made my breath catch. Mom, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't say everything face to face. I felt my chest tighten. His words blurred as I continued. I never wanted to hurt you. I know that's hard to believe after everything I did, but it's true. The business wasn't the only thing collapsing. I took loans from people I shouldn't have. I was desperate, scared, and ashamed. When I forged your name, I told myself I'd pay it back before you ever found out. I thought I was protecting you from seeing the son you raised become a failure. Tears fell onto the page. But when you looked at me that day at the bank, I saw the truth in your eyes. You didn't see a failure, you saw your son. And that broke me, Mom. Because I didn't deserve your love anymore. I pressed a hand to my mouth. The words swam in front of me. I'm sorry for every lie, every silence. I didn't know how to come back from it. I've sold the house, the car, everything that isn't essential. I'll pay back every dollar I touched. But I need to leave for a while. I owe money to people who don't forgive easily. My heart stopped. Please don't worry. I'll be safe. I just need time to fix what I've broken. If I ever make it right, I'll come back to you, not as the son who took, but as the man you raised me to be. The last line was short, almost like a whisper. You once told me that real love doesn't die. It just waits for the truth. I hope one day you'll forgive me enough to let me prove it. Ethan. I dropped the letter, my tears spilling freely now. The sound of the clock ticking felt cruelly loud. I don't know how long I sat there, the pages trembling in my lap. When the phone rang, I almost didn't answer. It was Grace. Mrs. Reed? I thought you should know. Ethan stopped by the bank yesterday. He closed his account and withdrew everything. He said he was leaving town for a while. I swallowed hard. Did he say where? No, ma'am. Just that he'd send you something soon. Thank you, Grace, I whispered, my voice breaking. After the call, I went back to the table and read the letter again, slowly this time, tracing every line like it was his voice. I could almost hear him speaking, soft and uncertain, like when he was a boy trying to explain why he'd broken a vase. For the first time, anger wasn't the loudest thing in my heart. It was sorrow and love. Later that evening, I made tea for two again. I set one cup in front of the empty chair across from me, the same way I used to when he was young. I read your letter, Ethan, I whispered. You shouldn't have gone alone. You never had to. The kettle hissed softly in the background like a sigh. I reached for the radio on the counter and turned it on. A quiet song began to play. Something old, something Ethan used to hum in the car. The melody wrapped around me like memory itself. For a moment, I imagined him sitting there again, smiling shyly the way he used to. It's going to be okay, Mom, I could almost hear him say. But when I looked up, the chair was still empty. I took a deep breath and folded the letter back into the envelope. Then I placed it inside the chest where I kept all the others. Birthdays, school drawings, notes from a happier time. This one felt different, though. This one wasn't about the past, it was a promise for the future. Before going to bed, I wrote my own short note and slipped it beside his letter. Ethan, wherever you are, know this. You are still loved. Come home when you can. I'll be here. I closed the chest gently and turned off the light. As I lay in bed, the wind outside whispered softly through the window. I didn't know where my son was or if he'd ever come back. But for the first time, I believed in the possibility of redemption. Not just his, but mine too. Because forgiveness, I realized, isn't about forgetting the pain. It's about choosing to love anyway. 3 years. That's how long it's been since Ethan's letter. 3 long years since I last heard his voice, since I saw that guilty half-smile he wore like a scar. The seasons came and went, quietly reshaping the world around me. The bank stopped calling. The neighbors stopped whispering. And the house, once filled with silence heavy enough to choke me, became a place of quiet prayer instead. Every morning I still set 2 cups on the table. One for me, one for the son who might walk through the door any day. I spoke to that empty chair like it was a bridge between the past and the hope I refused to bury. I forgive you, I would whisper again and again, as if those 3 words might find him wherever he was hiding. And in some strange way, I think they did. It was late autumn when the letter came. I almost missed it, buried beneath bills and advertisements. The handwriting on the envelope stopped my heart. It was his. My fingers shook as I tore it open. I don't know if you'll ever truly forgive me, but I've spent every day trying to earn it. I'm working at a repair shop in a small coastal town. I rent a small place above it. It's not much, but it's honest. I'm learning how to live without shortcuts, without lies. I still dream about home. About you. About the tea you used to make on cold mornings. I hope you're safe, and I hope the garden is still growing. I'll come home soon if you'll have me. Ethan. I pressed the letter to my chest and wept. But this time they weren't tears of grief. They were tears of release. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window staring at the moon. It was the same moon that had watched over him wherever he was. I whispered to it like an old friend. Guide him home, I said softly. Please. Days turned into weeks and I tried not to expect too much. Hope can be a cruel thing when it lingers too long. But still, I cleaned his room, changed the sheets and placed the letter he left me years ago on the nightstand. Just in case. Then one quiet morning I heard it. A knock. Not loud. Just 3 gentle taps. My heart stuttered. My hands froze around the teacup. I rose slowly, afraid to move too fast, as if the sound might vanish if I breathed too hard. When I opened the door, the world tilted. He stood there, thinner, older, but undeniably him. His hair was streaked with gray at the temples. His eyes, tired yet soft, searched mine like he was afraid I'd disappear. "Hi, Mom," he said, voice trembling. I didn't know if I should knock. For a heartbeat I couldn't speak. My throat locked, my knees wobbled. And then I did what mothers do. I reached out and pulled him into my arms. He hesitated for only a second before collapsing against me, arms tight, face buried in my shoulder. "I'm sorry," he whispered again and again. "You're home," I breathed, tears spilling freely. "That's all that matters. You're home." We stood there for a long time. No words, no explanations. Just the sound of forgiveness filling the space that once held silence. When we finally sat down, I noticed his hands, rough, scarred from work. His eyes carried stories of nights spent alone, rebuilding piece by piece. "I've been clean," he said softly. "No more lies, no more shortcuts. I've been helping others who got caught in the same mess I did. I wanted to make things right, Mom. Not just for you. For me." I smiled through tears. "You already have." He looked at me then, eyes glistening. "I thought you'd never want to see me again." I reached for his hand. "A mother's love doesn't disappear, Ethan. It waits." The rest of the day passed quietly. We talked about little things. Weather, work, my garden that had grown wild without him. But underneath every word was the sound of something mending. As evening fell, he stepped outside to look at the sunset. I watched him from the doorway, the same way I used to when he was a boy chasing fireflies. The light painted his face gold, and for the first time in years I saw peace there. Real peace. He turned to me and smiled. "You kept the chair," he said, nodding toward the kitchen window. "I told you," I said softly. "I never stopped waiting." He walked back, kissed my forehead and whispered, "Then I guess it's time I stayed." That night we had dinner together, the same simple meal as always. When he reached for the teapot to pour my cup, I realized something quietly beautiful. His hands didn't shake anymore. After he went to bed, I sat alone in the living room the way I had so many nights before. But this time the silence was kind. I looked at the 2 teacups on the table, both empty now, and smiled. There was a time when I thought forgiveness was something I had to feel. But I understand now. It's something you choose, every day, even when the hurt tries to whisper otherwise. The clock ticked softly in the background, steady and calm. I walked to the chest by the window, opened it and placed his new letter beside the old one. 2 letters side by side. One written in guilt, one written in redemption. Then I whispered to the quiet room, "We made it, Ethan." Outside, the wind carried the scent of rain, and somewhere in the distance, a train whistle blew. The sound of coming home. I closed my eyes and smiled through my tears. Because sometimes, love doesn't need grand gestures or perfect endings. Sometimes it just needs time, and a door that stays open. I wrote the letter 3 times before I found the right words. The first one sounded angry. The second one sounded broken. Only the third one sounded like me. A mother who had learned that love and loss are sometimes the same language, just spoken at different times. The morning light was pale when I sat at the kitchen table, pen trembling between my fingers. The house was too quiet, as if holding its breath. Ethan was still asleep in his old room. I could hear his faint breathing down the hallway, steady, peaceful. I stared at the blank page for a long time before I began. "Ethan, when you read this, I'll already be gone. Not far, just far enough to start over. You once told me that you wanted to live by the sea. I think I understand now. The sea doesn't ask who you used to be. It just accepts you as you are. Maybe that's why I'm going there too." The words came slowly, each one heavy but sure. "I spent so many years wondering where I went wrong as your mother. I kept asking myself if I loved you too much or not enough. But maybe love isn't about balance. Maybe it's about choosing to stay soft even after being broken." I paused, pressing my palm over the ink to keep it from smearing. My hand shook slightly. "The money you took, yes, it hurt. But money can be earned again. What I grieved was the trust, the small invisible thread between us that snapped the day you signed my name. Trust once stolen never returns the same. Comes back different, quieter, cautious but still hopeful. The tears came then, uninvited but gentle. They didn't burn anymore. I want you to know I'm not leaving because I'm angry. I'm leaving because I've finally learned that forgiveness doesn't mean staying still. It means walking forward even when your heart stays behind for a little while. I looked around the kitchen. The fading wallpaper, the 2 teacups still drying by the sink, the chair where he'd sat last night telling me about his work, his plans, his fears. He had changed. Truly changed. But I needed to change too. You've done something remarkable, Ethan. You found your way back to yourself. That's a kind of courage few people ever find. Don't lose it again. I hesitated before writing the next line. It had been echoing in my mind for days. You see, money can be earned again, but trust, once stolen, never returns the same. It limps back, scarred and slower, but it still walks beside love. That's what I carry with me now. Love with a limp. The clock ticked behind me, soft and steady. I imagined the sea, the sound of waves folding into each other, the endless rhythm that promised peace. If you ever come looking for me, you'll find me near the shore. There's a little cottage I've rented by the cliffs. I'll plant the roses you always hated pulling weeds around. Maybe one day you'll visit and we'll sit in silence watching the water. We won't talk about the past. We'll just listen to the waves and let them speak for us. I signed the letter carefully. With a mother's love, not vengeance, Nora. When I finished, I folded the paper and slipped it into a plain white envelope. No perfume, no embellishments. Just truth. I took a slow breath, stood and walked down the hallway. His door was half open and I could see him sleeping, his arm hanging off the edge of the bed like he used to as a boy. There was a small smile on his lips, peaceful, innocent. For a moment I wanted to wake him, to tell him I was proud, to tell him everything was okay. But some things are better left written than spoken. I placed the letter on the doormat outside his door and lingered there, my fingers brushing the wood. Then I turned and walked away. The morning air was cold when I stepped outside. The garden rustled softly, the wind moving through the tall grass like an old song. I looked back once, just once, and saw sunlight breaking through the clouds, painting the house in a quiet glow. I whispered, "Goodbye, my boy," and started walking down the path. My suitcase was light, just a few clothes, a book and one photograph. Ethan as a child sitting on my lap, both of us laughing. I didn't take anything else. The taxi waited by the gate. The driver, a kind older man, took my bag and asked, "Where to, ma'am?" "To the coast," I said softly. "Near the cliffs." As we drove away, I watched the town fade in the rearview mirror. The bakery, the school, the little bank where everything began. It all looked smaller now, like a picture from another life. I smiled faintly. "We made it through," I whispered to myself. When we reached the sea hours later, I stepped out and breathed in the salt air. It filled my lungs like a promise. The horizon stretched endlessly, blue and calm. I found a bench facing the water and sat there until the sun began to set. The waves crashed gently below, steady and forgiving. In my mind, I saw Ethan waking, finding the letter, his hands trembling the way mine once did. I imagined him reading each word slowly, letting them sink in. Maybe he'd cry. Maybe he'd smile. Maybe both. And maybe, just maybe, he'd understand that this was never about punishment. It was about letting love live without chains. I closed my eyes as the wind brushed against my face. Somewhere behind me, a child laughed. The sound carried over the waves like music. And I thought, this is what healing sounds like. The sea has a way of teaching you how to let go. The waves never cling to the shore. They touch it, whisper something only they understand, and then retreat, calm and unashamed. I've been watching them every evening for weeks now, trying to learn that rhythm. Today I brought something with me. The official envelope from the bank, creased, faded, and marked with time. I've kept it tucked inside my journal since the day I left town. It's the final tie to the life I used to live, the one filled with accounts, numbers, signatures, and betrayals. The wind is cool on my face as I sit on the old wooden bench by the shore. The ocean stretches endlessly, the sun melting slowly into gold. I unfold the letter with careful hands, reading it once more. Dear Ms. Wallace, we confirm that your account has been officially closed as per your written request. I smile. The paper trembles lightly in the breeze, but this time my hands don't. This time, I whisper to the wind, I closed it myself. The sound of my own voice surprises me. It doesn't shake. It doesn't carry pain. It sounds peaceful. I remember the first time I stood in that bank, my name shaking on my tongue, my heart breaking as I learned what Ethan had done. I remember Grace's trembling hands, the coldness in my chest, the disbelief that someone I raised could sign away my trust so easily. And yet, sitting here now, those memories feel like waves in the distance, still visible but too far to hurt me anymore. For so long I defined myself by what I lost. My savings, my trust, my son. But I see now that losing isn't always the end. Sometimes it's the clearing before the rebuilding. I glance down at my hands. They've grown thinner, lined with years of work and worry. But they've also written forgiveness, packed suitcases, planted seeds. They've done enough breaking, now they build. A young woman jogs past, earbuds in, smiling as she catches my eye. "Beautiful evening," she says breathlessly. "Yes," I reply, smiling back. "Beautiful indeed." She keeps running, her laughter echoing faintly against the wind. I watch her until she disappears down the path, and for a moment, I see my younger self in her. Bright, certain, unbroken. The sun dips lower, painting the water in shades of amber and rose. I take a deep breath, feeling the air fill me like a promise. For the first time in years, my life belongs entirely to me. No signatures forged, no explanations owed. Just me, the sea, and a peace that doesn't demand permission. I take out my notebook, the same one where I wrote Ethan's letter, and start a new page. The pen glides easier now, no hesitation in my fingers. Day 1 I write. A new beginning. The bank account is gone, but the real one, the one inside me, is finally open. No withdrawals, no theft. Only deposits of gratitude. I laugh softly to myself. "Look at me," I say out loud. Writing like some old philosopher. But maybe I've earned that right. Pain changes people, but reflection shapes them. A few children play nearby, chasing the tide. Their shouts and giggles carry across the shore. One of them, a little girl with a red ribbon in her hair, pauses and waves at me. I wave back. She runs toward the waves, fearless and free. I envy that kind of innocence, but I also realize, maybe I've found a new kind of freedom too. The kind that comes after surviving everything that tried to break you. I reach into my bag and pull out the bank letter one last time. The official closure stamp gleams faintly under the fading light. I hold it over the water, letting the wind tug gently at its corners. "This chapter's done," I whisper. "And it was mine to end." Then I release it. The paper catches the wind, dances once and floats away. It lands softly on the waves, curling, fading into the horizon. I watch until it disappears completely. Tears prick at my eyes, not of grief this time but of gratitude. For endings that make space for beginnings. For wounds that taught me how to breathe again. Behind me, a gull cries, its wings cutting through the sky like a signature on a blank page. I close my notebook and stand. My legs ache, but my steps are steady. As I walk along the beach, the tide brushes my feet, cool and gentle. The water glitters, each ripple catching a fragment of sunset. For years I thought peace meant silence. But now I know it means sound. The steady rhythm of the ocean, the laughter of strangers, the voice inside that finally speaks kindly. I pause near the rocks and turn one last time to watch the horizon. The sun sinks low, half hidden now, its light golden and forgiving. In that glow I see everything I've become. A woman who lost everything she thought she needed, only to find what truly mattered. My heart no longer races when I think of the past. My voice no longer trembles when I speak my own name. I whisper softly, "Nora Wallace." Feels good to say it. Like a signature that finally belongs to me again. The waves roll in, carrying the day away piece by piece. I breathe in deeply, the salt air cool and alive, and I smile. Because this moment, this peace, this new beginning wasn't given. It was earned. And this time I didn't need anyone's permission to claim it.